Based on everything you're saying, we need to ask you about Israel. We need to ask you about Big Beautiful Bill. But before that, based on everything you're saying, we can't have too many immigrants coming in too quickly. There are loopholes that get exploited. How do you feel about ending birthright citizenship?
I think, look, I don't think birthright citizenship is some hill I am willing to die on, in that if you were to have a country that had some requirements based on it, like, okay, you're born in this country, but we also want to make sure X, Y, and Z. Other countries have that.
Yeah, European countries have that.
Right.
Yeah.
What I will say is, because of the particular history of the United States, because of slavery and the Civil War, it is in the Constitution. And I don't think it's particularly ambiguous. It's pretty clearly written into the Constitution. And it's not a area where I would be leading the charge for a constitutional amendment. I don't think we need it. We've survived 250 years pretty well with it in there.
Getting too many immigrants too quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a loophole that you can come here illegally, have a kid is an American.
Yep.
I'm not saying what I believe, but I'm asking you based on what you're saying.
So what I'm saying is, I would rather make sure through the processes I was saying that you don't let the illegal immigrants in, rather than say we're gonna try and amend the Constitution and take out something that has been pretty core to the United States, as opposed to just strengthening the border and making sure you change the asylum. If you change asylum, by the way, to be fair to Trump, he has shown that it's actually not so hard to stop border entry.
Yeah.
I mean, border entry is down to close to zero, right? So you don't have a problem with birthright citizenship now because you're not letting anybody in.
But why does it seem like people are so upset with the amount of immigrants here if it doesn't seem to be affecting the economy that much? Like right now,
it helps the economy.
Yeah, actually. Like unemployment is at record lows, and I don't really hear people complaining that they can't get a job because some immigrant or migrant has that job that they want.
I think a lot of it is cultural. I do think a lot of it is cultural. People, as we were talking about, the places that have the immigrants don't seem to mind. It's the places, where do you feel the strongest anti-immigrant fervor? It literally is the places that have the lowest number of immigrants.
Yeah. Where their idea of America is one without immigrants.
Right.
And the places where your idea of New York is a city of immigrants. Right. So it's not as shocking for us. Right. Yeah, I don't see.
So don't we have to change how they feel and look at what America is? Because America is a place where we're accepting of all different types of people.
But we should be accepting of their view of America too.
I think you can meet them where they are, maybe a little bit, where it's like, instead of you have to completely change how you think. Okay, we're still letting in immigrants. That is what America is founded on. Maybe we let them in a little bit slower, and you can be upset about that if you want. But we need to.
As I said, we still, we take in 1 million legal. I don't think anyone has any problem with that. And honestly, as a legal immigrant, I kind of resent the fact that people who don't stand in line and don't do the things you're meant to do somehow get
ahead of the line.
Oh yeah,
right? I went through a very long, complicated, painful process to become an American.
We got to vet out the good ones. No, but to your example, it might be similar to like what some people experience with gentrification of like a black neighborhood, right? When one white family moves in, it might not be that bad. This feeling that like tons of white people are moving into this area and like changing the fabric of that area, changing the culture of that area. You've heard a lot of people go, I don't really like this gentrification. Where are all these white people moving in? You can understand that perspective, right?
Yeah, like I can see being a little bit upset about the change, but they're not like kick them out.
But would you hold on? Would you say that on record? You don't think that they would say kick them out?
I mean, they're not protesting in front of white homes right now in Brooklyn, demanding him to leave.
Are they not?
No.
Okay. Maybe they're not, but you would agree that there is a sentiment that is against it.
Yeah.
And I guess what I would say is like, if we can understand that, then maybe you can understand the people from, we're going to use Montana as a placeholder, that also have that same sentiment, that these people coming in are changing like what our idea of our neighborhood and our community is.
Yes. And I agree with that. But I think we have
You said, why don't we change their opinion?
Well, I think we have the changing their opinion that like, hey, we're against all change. Like change is going to be a difficult thing at times, but you have
I think you're talking about extremes who are like, to Fareed's earlier point, who are like, we don't want legal immigration. I think they're talking about illegals, which is a pretty easy thing to get behind. Like if somebody just came to a black neighborhood in Brooklyn, would just force families out, illegally. Nah, this is ours. We need asylum from whatever the fuck. You'd be like, no.
Right.
By the way,
Gentrification is not illegal.
I just want to point out this is one of the reasons why I think our politics has gotten more polarized. Is that in the old days when it was all about economics, you could always split the difference. Right? One side wanted to spend $100 billion, the other side wanted to spend nothing. There's a number in between those.
50. Let's make it.
But when you talk about cultural issues, abortion, gay rights, immigrant, these are all kind of like they feel very much like they're about values. They're about, right? It's very hard to compromise this, and that's where we are. And it's not just America. I think all over the Western world, let's say like we've moved up Maslow's hierarchy so much.
What is that? What is that?
So Maslow has a hierarchy of needs, which was like when you start out in life, you need basic physical needs, material needs.
I need Wi-Fi.
And his final one, which I think is really interesting, is self-actualization.
Yeah.
Like we want to feel like we are doing the thing we were meant to do in life. We have purpose, we have dignity. And when it starts to become about all those things, it's very hard to compromise.
That's really
those issues are so amorphous,